Okay.
So, Dad and you and I were talking this morning about today being the 75th anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And for many people, momentous occasions like that, people have memories, like when JFK was shot, or the Challenger explosion. And what many of us have no memory of because we weren't born yet was the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And I was curious about what your memory is about hearing about that, when and how it happened.
What I remember is I was an intern at Allegheny General Hospital, and I was writing orders for Monday surgery. I was in the hospital at the surgical floor on Sunday to write those orders, and the loudspeaker came on uh, saying that Pearl Harbor had been bombed at 8 o'clock uh, Hawaiian time. And I had the feeling at last we're going to do something. I had a feeling I wanted to get into the Army as quickly as possible.
What were you hoping you could do for the war and the Army?
I think I had a fantasy of being close to combat and that I was helping soldiers who were wounded, helping them whatever way was necessary. But I needed to do something.
And was that the general consensus in the hospital and in the general population in Pittsburgh where you were? What was the general feeling?
I don't remember talking to anybody or hearing any conversation among the staff. So although I knew all of the interns were of draft age, I didn't hear anything from them.
How about your family, your parents? What were they thinking and feeling?
Uh, if anything was said, it would be from mother who would say, I, I hope you don't have to go overseas. And I said, I don't have any choice. Somebody's going to make that choice for me.
You mentioned this morning that someone from Selective Service said something to your father. Do you want to talk about that a minute?
Yes, Aliquippa was a small city town of 25,000 people. And Mr. Hornstein, who was a funeral director, was chairman of the Selective Service Organization. And he knew Dad and he knew where I was. And he went to Dad and said, we need to fill our quota of enlisted men. And your son does not have a commission. So when he finishes his internship, he's going to be drafted. And Dad said, you can't draft him. He's a doctor. And Mr. Ornstein said, I'm sorry, I have to fill a quota. So Dad called me and told me that I had to do something about getting my commission. So I spoke to several of the interns. They all said the same thing. They were just waiting for somebody in Washington or someplace to fill in the papers. So when we finished our internship, we would become first lieutenant medical doctors in the service. So we agreed, and one weekend, I guess, we piled into a car. And we all went down to Washington, D.C., and went to some office and said, you have our papers to give us commissions. Where are they? If you don't give them to us, we're going to be grunts. We're going to be enlisted men.
Privates.
And the man said, you're in the wrong building. You're in the wrong city. You have to go to Baltimore. Back into the car, over to Baltimore. We found the right building, the right office. The man said, oh, your commissions, is that what you're worried about? So he went into the back office and he came back and he said, your commissions are ready. The papers just hadn't been put together. You're all okay. You're all going to be commissioned first lieutenants in the Army Medical Corps.
So you were able to finish your internship
Right.
through 1942. Was that June
Yes.
of 1942?
Would be June 30th. Would be the last day
1942.
of June.
Okay.
And so now I just had to wait until certain things happened. The first thing that happened was I was called to Carlisle, Pennsylvania, which was a gathering of potential officers and give them information on what we needed, what kind of outfits to wear, what kind to buy, what kind of suitcase to buy, and answer all the questions. Then we all dispersed, went back to our homes to wait until we heard something from the Army.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
It sounds like there was a real spirit of patriotism at the time.
Yes, a great feeling. Yes. We all wanted to do something. We all knew that we were going to be in combat one way or another, whether it was write orders or do bandages or whatever, but we all want to do something without question.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yes. I remember when we were at Carlisle, an officer came in and said, I've got a question for you. You and your men have to set up camp. And the first thing you have to do is set up a flagpole. Everything follows from that. And how do you set up a flagpole? And one officer said, well, you call the engineers and have them dig a hole. He said, no, that's not it. Another one said, well, you have your men put water on the ground, make it soft, and dig a hole. He said, no. The third one said, you just have to look around where there's a soft spot and dig a hole. He said, no, what you do is you say, Sergeant, put up the flagpole, which was a very good lesson, which I followed. I remembered very well.
That's a great story.
So I got home, bought outfit that I needed, khakis, greens. Greens is a term for dress uh, code, and a lot of little things while Mother and Dad worried about me. And I got my call to report for duty early August, I think August the 8th, and that would be 1942.
Right.
And they sent me a voucher, which was good on the train. And the voucher said that I was to go to Valparaiso. And I took it to the station master and I said, where's Valparaiso? He said, it's in Indiana. I said, I'm not going to Indiana. I'm going someplace south. So I looked it up and there's a Valparaiso somewhere north of Florida. And that's where I went. I was sent to Eglin Field, which was my first post. And I carried my Valpak and I went in to the major of the CO of the hospital. And I saluted and he sort of waved at me. And I realized nobody salutes in the Army. That's not necessary. So I was stationed at the hospital.
Certainly not in the hospital, right? You don't salute in the hospital anyway, right?
Right. And then in the hospital, I sort of ran a first aid station. Soldiers came in with sore throats and backache and hemorrhoids. And I didn't do very much. And then a doctor in one of the small outlying units was killed. And so I was sent there to replace him.
Where was that?
This in Eglin Field.
Oh, at Eglin.
The small parts of Eglin Field were where the aviators, flyers, were sent to learn how to strafe, how to drop torpedoes, and so on. And as it turned out, the doctor and one of the pilots flew to Atlanta to get whiskey and have a good time. When they came back, the pilot made a mistake and strafed the field. So there was a crash, both of them killed, and I became the doctor for the small field. I didn't have anything to do. Everybody was, the soldiers for the most part were healthy.
Right.
If they were poor health, they just never made it. And all I did was read. I once went up in a Piper Cub with the CO of the field, but I wasn't excited about that. I can still remember one morning I reached over and to put on my shoes, and I was listening to the radio, and I heard that the United States Army had landed in Africa. That was the beginning of the African campaign.
Yeah. So I just want to mention that you were just 99 last week, and you were 99 years old last week.
Yes.
And so at the time, you were 24 when you entered the Army.
Yes.
Yes. So what a memory you have to recall all this.
It seems like a long time ago.
75 years, before, a few months before you met Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, you met her in December, later in the year.
Yes.
Right.
And it was something I wanted to do. I hated sitting around and reading and not really being of any use. So my time came when I got orders to take several enlisted men and go to New Orleans and wait there for other officers and other enlisted men, and that would be put together the 102nd Station Hospital. While in New Orleans, I met Yvette, and we married. She quit her job in the law office, which she was happy to do.
She was happy to do.
Yes, she was very happy.
All that happened in a year's time.
Yes, yes.
It's quite a lot in 1 year.
Yeah. Our officers gathered in New Orleans, and then we got orders to go to Texarkana, Texas, and we all knew that we were being sent there so we could practice being a hospital, coming together and learning to do everything a hospital's supposed to do. My commanding officer was Saul Goodman, a child psychiatrist. So he knew people in Washington, and he had himself sent someplace else so he wouldn't go overseas. And then we had a young pathologist from New York. Since there wasn't much to do in our unit, he spent time at Charity Hospital working in the pathology lab.
In New Orleans.
In New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
So when the time came for us to head in the general direction of overseas, he had himself declared necessary for the pathology
Amazing.
in New Orleans. I never forgave either of them.
You never forgave?
I never forgave them.
Mm-hmm.
As it turned out, when we came back, this is when the war is over, I met the pathologist, and he was such a crumb bum. Chasing Yvette. He was chasing Yvette. which made everything worse. Anyway, back to uh, Texarkana, Texas. Uh, yeah, there was a big hospital there, and we all found places to work. I was just put on a ward, and so I would know all the routine of taking care of soldiers. We went through uh, what do you call them? Uh, where you crawl under wires, uh, and
Obstacle
they
drills.
shoot a gun. They shoot guns, fire machine guns over you. I remember clearly that one of the officers asked if he could, not one of our officers, one of the hospital's officers, if he could fire the machine gun. They said yes. So he set himself up while we're crawling under wire and he's firing across the top of us. Crazy things happen. People's ideas of fun and so on. And I remember saying to Yvette, find us a place to stay. We stayed in a hotel for a couple of days. And she, in her very awesome way of doing things, she came across a young woman who was waiting until her husband in the army went overseas. And then she would still sell the house. So Yvette became very close friends with her, and we rented that house. Then we had an interesting experience. Yvette was in the backyard. The man next door came over and said, who is your God? And Yvette said, I'm Jewish. He said, you can't be Jewish. You're supposed to have horns. So she said, I'm Jewish. I don't have horns. So they talked for a while. And they cut the lawn in the backyard and did small things for her. So we stayed there until word came to go down to the station, take a train, and make our way to California. And Yvette, who was then pregnant, waited there for a day or two. We had Moss's car, so she went back to New Orleans, drove back. When we got to Fort, I think it was Fort Stockton, I think so, where there were just thousands of soldiers, all of them in their units waiting to go overseas. We spent a lot of time looking at movies,
right,
playing poker, playing bridge, and so on. I went into town, I think San Francisco, could be wrong. Went to a department store looking for something to send to Yvette. And I came across a set of dishes that were glass, clear. So I asked the lady clerk if she'd have them wrapped and mailed. She said, of course. said, "What return address should I give?" And she looked at me with my uniform. She said, "Oh, excuse me."
Never mind. You still have the plates? Do you all still have the plates? The glass plates?
We had them for a long time.
Mm-hmm. It's a long time ago.
Mom said she loved them, of course.
Nice.
After, I think, about 6 weeks, we were told we were going to get on board ship. As I remember, one of the Seventh-day Adventists finally confessed. He said, "I don't want to go to fight. I don't want to hurt anybody." So he was dismissed. I can still remember him waving to us when we were on trucks headed for the boat. When we got on board ship, I can still remember we pulled away from the pier. Well, we hadn't gone 50 feet. I became terribly nauseated, seasick. So I went down to my bunk. I had some sleeping pills. I took a second off, went to sleep, woke the next day, and I was okay.
Wow. Yeah. Imagine. What was the what ship were you on?
It was an Italian luxury liner. I used to know the name. The enlisted men had bunks, four bunks, one on top of the other. The bottom one touched the floor.
Oh, yeah.
The top one was hard to turn.
Yes.
You turned silly. And officers, we just had 2 bunks, so we were okay. Spent a lot of time looking at the ocean as it went by. I wrote letters every day so that when we got to wherever we were going, they would be sent back.
Sure.
We landed at Lae, New Guinea, and went by truck to Nadzab, which was quite large as far as soldiers and so on. And then we took planes up to Gusap, where we settled into setting up tents. We went out into the woods nearby, cut down trees for the to hold up the tents.
Right.
We used
stakes for stakes
for everything. I was an officer at a tent. Took care of probably, I can remember, probably 20 to 25 soldiers. Most of them came down with dengue fever, occasional malaria, and one thing and another, and typhus fever.
Wow. There were no inoculations then for those things, were there?
The Army needed telephone lines from where we had landed, Calais, so on, up to where we were. Unfortunately, they were going through high grass where there were small insects that found found a nice warm place in the soldier's crotch.
Ooh.
They came down with typhus fever. Fortunately, while we were there, we had a bunch of sick ones. There were no deaths.
That's great.
One morning, I was at breakfast, and a corpsman came in and said, "Doctor or lieutenant, you better come. Somebody's going to get hurt." So I went with him to the ward, and there was one of the soldiers sick. He was crying and crouched in a corner. I said, "What happened?" They said they played poker and he was cheating, and they found out and they were going to kill him.
Whoa.
So I called a halt and I called a truce and said, "Fellas, you get your money back." Then I said to him, "I won't create any problems for you. You have to tell me how you cheated."
Teach me your
"Well,"
method.
he said, "Well, it's very simple. If there are 4 people playing poker and it's my turn to deal, I pick up the cards. Every 4th card is a high one. And I deal that one to myself, dealing 4 to 2. I had a bunk with Don Lowry. He was medical administrative. His job is all the paperwork.
Right.
And he was a very good friend. I played bridge, played poker, but he was busy all day long with paperwork. And he had somebody else. All I remember his name was McEachern. The 2 of them did a very good job, and we were a good place. And early one morning, probably about 4 or 5 o'clock, one of the soldiers began to rant and rave. And they called me, and I couldn't get in touch with him. So we gave him some chlorohydrate intravenously until he fell asleep. And then we made arrangements for him to go back to the States.
So he was psychotic. He
Yes.
was psychotic.
Yes. Then you have to understand that life there was very boring. It wasn't any.
I've heard you say that.
It was terrible. So we were all very excited when we heard a Japanese plane come across. Everybody ran out to watch the plane. It was almost like it matched, you know.
Yes, sure.
It was like that. And he strafed and put a bullet hole in the mess tent, but nobody was hurt.
Wow.
And then he took off. So he just made one pass.
Uh-huh.
When we went out to cut down small trees for the
Steak.
tents, I had taken along some cam cards. As you know, they're plastic and so on. So we had finished work. I said, "Let's play bridge." I said, "Okay, got cards." I said, "Yeah." I brought out my cam cards, and then we put a insect repellent on our hands, and that dissolved the cards.
Plastic?
plastic.
Oh my gosh. That was strong repellent, wasn't it?
I think that's all that happened, except Dr. Schlimovitz. He was a captain. He was with the Air Force Base several miles away. So he came to see me. How he picked me, I don't know, but he said, "You want to go treat um, natives of Yaws?" I said, "How do you do it?" He said, "We just inject them by vein, inject penicillin." So it was something to do, thank God for something.
Is that when you went to the Philippines? Is that was later? Okay.
Later, yeah.
That was still in New Guinea.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're still in New Guinea.
Yeah. Okay.
So I went to the villages. I collected native trinkets, spears, bow and arrow, shields, and the army sent them back. I sent them to Bill Levinson in Baton Rouge.
Right.
And he gave them to a museum. So interesting.
It's
The
great.
government doesn't care. You want to send them spears and things.
Right.
Yes.
They're weapons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nate was a good hand me the water, please.
Sure.
That's from talking. He had a way of dealing with the army. He knew how to take care of things. So then we had to fly back to Natsab and Leh because the war was moving north and our hospital was dissolved and became part of the 35th General. That's when I became a dermatologist.
Poof, you're a dermatologist. Right.
It was awful, boring. My job was to find out why certain soldiers were reacted to Ataburn. They had purple areas on their arms and in their mouth. Their eyes turned yellow. Lots of things happened.
Yeah.
And it was my job to feed them the Ataburn and see what was going on. Of course, I never did find out. What did come out of that was my superior, who was really in charge, said to me, "If you want to be a dermatologist, I'll get you a residency in dermatology." And he was from Johns Hopkins, so it was a nice offer. Then
but you were bored. It was boring to you.
Boring.
So that was not going to work.
Mm-hmm. And it was more boring and boring. One day at lunch, one of the officers said, "I just got orders to join the Alamo Scouts. I've got a wife and 2 kids. I don't want to go Alamo Scouts. I said, I'll tell you what, get the orders changed, and I'll go to the Alamo Scouts. So he got the orders changed. I went to the Alamo Scouts, which was more boring.
Oh, no.
I really didn't do anything. It sounds very daring.
It does.
Exciting.
More adventurous.
All I did was read. And, one soldier in the group had a toothache. We had no access to dentists. But one of the men said, there's a Navy out in the Gulf. And the Navy always has anything you need, and they'll have dentists. So they took Japanese souvenirs. We went into a motorboat out. There were a lot of destroyers going back and forth. Here was this big battleship. And we called, you got a dentist? Said, yeah. So, I gave the soldier to take care of me. They served me dinner, I remember, steak and ice cream. The Navy is a great place. And of course they traded off the souvenirs for ice cream, butter, milk that we didn't have.
Great idea to
Yeah.
take the souvenirs.
Good use.
So I'm thinking we might want to wrap it up for now. And we'll come back another time and talk more about it.
Remember, Alamo Scouts.
Alamo Scouts, that's where we left off.
Okay,
Okay, so thanks for sharing about today's December 7th,
You're
2016.
very welcome.
The 75th
I'm
anniversary.
really recalling a lot.
You are.
Surprise.
I'm very, very thrilled about it. So thank you for sharing about your memory about Pearl Harbor and beyond.
Very good.